I was the woman no one wanted to look at. That's not self-pity, it's the brutal reality I lived with every day. The scarring covered 70% of my face, a permanent reminder of the fire that took my parents when I was 14. The doctors had done what they could, but medicine has its limits. Society's tolerance has even stricter ones. We're looking for someone more presentable, the hiring manager at the Grand Palace Hotel said, not even trying to hide her grimace. It was the 5th rejection that week, each one more humiliating than the last. I needed work desperately. My landlord had already threatened eviction twice this month. I still remember how the receptionist had whispered to her colleague when I walked in, thinking I couldn't hear. God, how can someone even leave the house? Looking like that? They laughed. I pretended not to notice, like I always did. Shanghai was supposed to be my fresh start after leaving my small village. Instead, the city's gleaming towers and beautiful people only magnified my otherness. In a culture obsessed with appearance and social harmony, my face was a disruption. A conversation stopper. A reason to look away. That night, I sat on my threadbare mattress in my tiny apartment, counting my remaining yuan. Enough for perhaps 2 more weeks of food and shelter. I had tried everything: housekeeping positions, back kitchen work, night shifts at factories where no customers would see me. Always the same result: uncomfortable glances, whispered conversations, and rejection. The employment agency had stopped calling me back. Lin, we just don't have positions suitable for someone with your particular situation, they'd said the last time I'd gone in person. My phone rang, the ancient flip phone I kept because I couldn't afford anything better. Unknown number. Hello? I answered, expecting another bill collector. Is this Lin Wei? A woman's crisp, professional voice. Yes, speaking. My name is Mei Zhang, executive assistant to Mr. Zhao Chen of Zhao Enterprises. Your application has been forwarded to our office. Mr. Zhao would like to meet with you tomorrow regarding a household staff position, 9 a.m. Can you attend? I nearly dropped the phone. Zhao Chen, one of China's wealthiest men. His face was on business magazines. His investment company was worth billions, and he wanted to interview me? There must be some mistake, I said. No mistake, Ms. Wei. The car will collect you at 8:30. Please text your address to this number. She hung up before I could respond. Didn't sleep that night. Why would a billionaire want to interview someone like me? Someone even budget hotels wouldn't hire to clean toilets. It made no sense. Perhaps it was a cruel joke. Or worse. Still, at 8:25 the next morning, I stood nervously on the curb outside my crumbling apartment building, wearing my only decent outfit, a simple black dress I'd bought for my parents' funeral years ago. At precisely 8:30, a gleaming, black Mercedes pulled up. The Zhao mansion sat on the outskirts of Shanghai, a modern palace of glass and steel behind high walls. I was led through rooms larger than my entire apartment, past staff who stopped to stare, at my face, of course, but also at my presence there at all. Finally, I was shown into a vast office. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed manicured gardens. A man stood with his back to me, looking out at the view. Tall, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than I'd earn in years, if anyone would actually hire me. Mr. Zhao will see you now, the assistant said, then left, closing the door. He turned. Zhao Chen, 50-something, with silver-streaked hair and sharp, intelligent eyes that landed on my face without flinching. No disgust, no pity, just assessment. Ms. Wei, thank you for coming. His voice was deep, authoritative. He gestured to a chair. Please. I sat, clutching my small purse, waiting for the moment his mask would slip. It always happened eventually, that involuntary recoil people couldn't quite suppress. You're wondering why you're here, he stated, taking his own seat behind a massive desk. Yes, sir. I need a household manager. Someone discreet, intelligent, and, most importantly, invisible. Invisible? I repeated. My home frequently hosts business associates, political figures, celebrities. They expect perfection. They don't want to see imperfection. There it was. The twist of the knife. I stood up. Thank you for your time, Mr. Zhao, but I won't be hidden away like something shameful. You misunderstand, he said calmly. Sit down, please. Something in his tone made me obey. What I mean is that my guests don't want to see the mechanics of how their comfort is provided. They want their drinks to appear as if by magic, their rooms to clean themselves, their needs anticipated before they're even expressed. I need someone who can orchestrate this invisibility, someone who understands what it means to be overlooked, yet still present. I studied his face for signs of mockery or pity. Found none. The position pays 30,000 yen monthly. You'll have your own apartment on the grounds, full medical benefits, 5 staff to manage. My mouth fell open. That was more money than I'd ever imagined earning. Why me? His expression remained unreadable. Your employment history shows you've been rejected from 27 positions in 4 months, yet you keep trying. That demonstrates resilience. Your educational records show top marks despite your circumstances, intelligence, and your references. From your village, describe someone who quietly took care of others after her own tragedy. Compassion. He knew everything about me, had researched me. There's one condition, he added. Complete discretion. What happens in this house stays in this house. Can you agree to that? I should have asked questions, should have wondered why he'd chosen me out of all people. But desperation and opportunity made a powerful combination. Yes, I said. I can agree to that. Good. May will show you to your quarters. You start immediately. As if on cue, the door opened and the assistant reappeared. Jay returned to looking out the window, our meeting clearly concluded. As I followed May through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors, staff members stopped to stare. One kitchen worker whispered to another, "That's her, the new household manager. But she's hideous," the other finished, not bothering to lower her voice. I pretended not to hear, just as I always did. But something had changed. For the first time in years, the words didn't cut quite so deeply. I had a purpose now. I had been chosen, specifically chosen, by one of China's most powerful men. What I didn't know then was why. I didn't know the Yae secrets that lurked behind the mansion's perfect facade. I didn't know that in hiring me, Zhao Chen had set in motion a chain of events that would shake the foundations of his empire and my life. All I knew was that for the first time since the fire, someone had looked at my face and seen something other than scars, and that was just the beginning. Within a week, I had the Zhao household running with military precision. The staff who had whispered behind my back quickly learned I was more than my scarred face. I reorganized schedules, improved efficiency, and introduced systems that made the mansion operate seamlessly. Those who couldn't adjust to my authority were replaced. Mr. Zhao gave me complete control over household matters, and I wielded it effectively but fairly. I learned to anticipate his needs before he expressed them. Coffee at exactly 5:30 a.m., prepared the way he liked it. Daily reports on household matters, concise and thorough, absolute privacy when he requested it. In return, he treated me with something I hadn't experienced in years: respect. He looked me in the eye when we spoke. Never commented on my appearance, never apologized for introducing me to important guests, though I noticed how some of them recoiled when they saw me. "This is Ms. Lin Wei, my household manager," he would say simply, as if my presence was the most natural thing in the world. I became adept at fading into the background at social functions, watching, observing. The mansion frequently hosted China's elite, business leaders, government officials, celebrities. They spoke freely, as if the staff were furniture rather than people. I learned things about the wealthy and powerful that they never intended to reveal. "Has Ms. Wei met your son yet?" May asked Mr. Zhao one evening as I was delivering household reports. Something flickered across his face. Discomfort. "Kai is still in America," Business school. His tone indicated the subject was closed. Later that night, I was checking the wine cellar inventory when I overheard 2 security guards talking outside the door. "The young master returns next week," one said. "God help us all." "The old man still doesn't know about the gambling debts in Macau," the other replied. 3 million yen at least. I filed this information away, as I did all household intelligence. Knowledge was power in a place like this, and I was collecting it piece by piece. 3 months into my employment, everything changed. I was awakened at 2 a.m. by commotion downstairs, loud voices, doors slamming. I pulled on a robe and hurried down to find staff members rushing about in a panic. "What's happening?" I demanded. The head of security, Mr. Liang, looked grim. "Young Mr. Zhao has returned, unexpectedly." I followed the noise to the main living area, where a young man was sprawled across an expensive sofa, clearly intoxicated. 2 women in revealing dresses giggled beside him. Empty champagne bottles littered the floor. This was Kai Zhao, the heir to the Zhao fortune. He looked up as I entered, his glazed eyes focusing on my scarred face. Instead of the usual disgust, he burst into laughter. "Father's finally done it," he slurred. "Hired the ugliest woman in China to keep me in line." He lurched to his feet, swaying. "It won't work. Nothing works." The women tittered nervously, eyeing my disfigurement with horrified fascination. I kept my voice level. "Mr. Zhao, I'm the household manager. These are private family quarters. Your guests need to leave." He stepped closer, alcohol fumes washing over me. "Do you know who I am? I own you. I own everyone in this house." "Your father owns this house," I corrected him quietly, "and he expects certain standards to be maintained." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. He raised his hand as if to strike me, then seemed to think better of it. Instead, he leaned in, whispering so only I could hear. "You think you know my father?" "You know nothing. Ask him about the scars he keeps hidden. Ask him what really happened to my mother." Security arrived then, summoned by one of the quick-thinking staff. The women were escorted out. Kai was helped to his suite, still hurling obscenities. I didn't sleep the rest of that night, his words echoing in my mind. Ask him about the scars he keeps hidden. The next morning, Mr. Zhao returned early from a business trip, alerted to his son's arrival. I heard shouting from his office, Kai's. Slurred accusations, Mr. Zhao's controlled fury. Then silence. Mr. Zhao summoned me afterward, looking exhausted. "My son will be staying with us indefinitely. He's had difficulties in America." I nodded, waiting for further instructions. "He's troubled, Ms. Wei. Lost. His mother died when he was young, and I haven't always been present." A rare moment of vulnerability from a man who never showed weakness. "I'd like you to keep an eye on him. Report to me directly." "Yes, sir." "And Ms. Wei." He fixed me with that penetrating gaze. "Whatever he tells you about me or this family, take it with considerable skepticism. He's been influenced by people who wish to damage the Zhao name." I understood then. I wasn't just hired to manage a household. I was a buffer between father and son, a spy in a family Cold War. Over the next weeks, Kai's behaviour grew increasingly erratic. Drunken parties, suspicious packages delivered in the middle of the night, women coming and going at all hours. He seemed determined to provoke his father into throwing him out, but Mr. Zhao maintained a frigid tolerance. I watched, I listened, I filed reports. But I didn't include everything, like how Kai sometimes sat alone in the garden at dawn, staring at nothing, tears streaming down his face. Or how he kept a worn photograph of a beautiful woman, his mother, in his wallet. Some things felt too private, even for my role as informant. One evening, I was organising the library when Kai appeared, surprisingly sober. "The loyal spy," he said, but without his usual venom. "Do you report everything to my father, every detail of my disgraceful existence?" "I report what's relevant to the household," I answered carefully. He studied my face with unusual intensity. "Don't you ever wonder why he chose you?" Out of all the qualified household managers in Shanghai? I had wondered, of course. But I'd buried those questions beneath gratitude for the opportunity, the salary, the respect. My father doesn't do anything without calculation, Kai continued. Every move is part of some greater strategy, even you. I'm good at my job, I said stiffly. He laughed, but it was hollow. I'm sure you are, but that's not why you're here. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then held it up for me to see. It was a photograph of a younger Mr. Zhao with a stunningly beautiful woman, the same one from Kai's wallet. They were on a yacht, smiling, perfect. Beside them stood another couple. The man was unfamiliar, but the woman, my heart stopped. Despite being 20 years younger with an unmarred face, I recognized her instantly. My mother. Impossible, I whispered. Is it? Kai's eyes gleamed with a mixture of triumph and pain. Did you never wonder why a billionaire would personally select someone like you for this position? Did you never question the coincidence? My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. My parents had been simple people from a small village, factory workers. They couldn't possibly have moved in the same circles as the Zhao family. They were friends once, your mother and mine, Kai said, his voice suddenly gentle. Before the fire, before everything changed. The room seemed to tilt around me. What are you saying? I'm saying my father has secrets, dangerous ones, and somehow you're connected to them. He put his phone away. Ask him, see if he tells you the truth. I doubt he will. He left me there, shaken to my core. That night I couldn't sleep. Instead, I dug through my meagre possessions until I found the small box of salvaged family photographs, all that survived the fire. Most were damaged, but there was one of my mother on a beach, smiling. I'd always assumed the edge of the photo showed a stranger's arm around her shoulders, the rest torn away. Now I wondered, had it been Mrs. Zhao's arm? Or perhaps Mr. Zhao himself? The next morning, I watched my employer with new eyes as he reviewed documents at breakfast. This powerful man who had rescued me from poverty, who had looked past my scars when no one else would. What wasn't he telling? Me? Is something troubling you, Ms. Wei? He asked without looking up, somehow sensing my scrutiny. I almost asked then, almost demanded the truth about my mother, about why he'd really hired me. But self-preservation stopped me. Knowledge was indeed power, but it could also be dangerous. No, sir, nothing at all, but we both knew it was a lie, and as I turned to leave, I caught something in his expression I'd never seen before. Fear. What was Zhao Chen afraid of? What connection did he have to my family? And most importantly, what really caused the fire that destroyed my face and killed my parents? For the first time since arriving at the mansion, I felt truly afraid of the answers that might be waiting in the shadows. The knowledge that Mr. Zhao might be connected to my parents consumed me. I began investigating discreetly, searching for clues without raising suspicion. My first breakthrough came while organising Mr. Zhao's personal study, a task he trusted, only to me. Behind a painting of Shanghai's skyline, I discovered a wall safe. I wasn't meant to find it, but years of managing households had taught me where the wealthy hide their secrets. Opening it was impossible, of course, but knowing it existed was a start. I began observing Mr. Zhao more carefully, noting when he accessed the safe, always when he thought no one was watching. 3 times I glimpsed him entering the combination, each time catching a different segment of the sequence. Patient as always, I waited for the complete picture to emerge. Meanwhile, Kai's behaviour grew increasingly self-destructive. He disappeared, for days, returning dishevelled and hollow-eyed. Rumours circulated among the staff that he owed money to dangerous people. Mr. Zhao and I never discussed these absences directly, but his tightening jaw and sleepless eyes told me all I needed to know. One night I was awakened by shouting. I hurried to the main house to find father and son in a confrontation that seemed ready to turn violent. "You're a hypocrite!" Kai screamed, face contorted with rage. "You stand there judging me when your hands are stained with—" "Enough, Mr. Jay thundered, his composure finally cracking. He noticed me hovering in the doorway. "Ms. Wei, please escort my son to his quarters. He's clearly unwell." Kai laughed bitterly. "Still hiding behind your loyal servant? Does she know who she's really working for?" I stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Kai's arm. "Come, Mr. Kai. This conversation can continue when you're both calmer." Surprisingly, he allowed me to lead him away. In the hallway, he sagged against me, suddenly vulnerable. "He's not who you think he is," he murmured, alcohol heavy on his breath. "Neither was my mother. Nothing in this family is what it seems." I helped him to bed, where he passed out almost immediately. As I turned to leave, I noticed a folder peeking out from under his mattress. I shouldn't have looked. It was a violation of privacy, of trust. But my need for answers overwhelmed my professionalism. The folder contained newspaper clippings about a fire in my village 15 years ago. My fire. The one that claimed my parents and my former face. Official reports had ruled it an electrical accident, but these articles hinted at possible arson, investigations that mysteriously went nowhere. One photo showed the charred remains of our home with a figure in the background, a man in an expensive suit watching from a distance. Though blurry, there was something familiar about his posture, his bearing. I carefully returned the folder and left, my mind racing. Why would Kai have articles about my family's tragedy? What was he trying to piece together? 2 days later, opportunity arrived. Mr. Zhao announced he would be in Beijing for 36 hours. As soon as his car left the estate gates, I went. To his study, heart pounding against my ribs. The combination. I'd seen him enter it enough times now to try. 6 digits that could unlock the truth. My hands trembled as I dialed the numbers. The safe swung open. Inside were documents, a gun, which I carefully avoided touching, and a small lacquered box. I opened the box first. Photographs. The top one showed 4 people on a yacht, Mr. Zhao, his beautiful wife, and my parents, all smiling, arms around each other like the closest of friends. I stared in disbelief. My simple, factory worker parents with the Zhao family. It made no sense. More photos revealed a similar pattern. My parents at lavish parties, in luxury settings, always with the Zhaos. In one, my mother and Mrs. Zhao embraced like sisters. At the bottom of the stack was a document, a contract of some sort with both my parents' signatures. The language was complex, legal, but one phrase jumped out. Agreement of silence. What had my parents agreed to keep silent about? I heard a noise outside the study door. Quickly, I photographed several key documents with my phone, returned everything to its exact position, and closed the safe. I was straightening the painting when Mei entered. "Ms. Wei, I thought you were doing inventory." "Just tidying Mr. Zhao's study while he's away," I said, keeping my voice steady. "He mentioned it needed attention." She nodded, but her eyes were suspicious. "The young master is asking for you, another episode." I found Kai in the garden, staring into the koi pond. Surprisingly sober, but with that same hollow look. When he saw me, something shifted in his expression. "Did you look?" he asked simply. I didn't pretend to misunderstand. "Yes. And?" "I don't know what to think. My parents were simple people. They couldn't have afforded to be in those places with those people. Unless someone was paying them," Kai said quietly. "Unless they had something valuable to offer, or something dangerous to tell." A chill ran through me. "What are you suggesting?" He looked at me directly, his eyes clearer than I'd ever seen them. "My mother didn't die of cancer like my father. Claims. She killed herself when I was 10. I found her." His voice cracked slightly. "There was a note. My father destroyed it before anyone else could read it, but I saw one line. I can't live with what we did to them." My legs weakened. I sat beside him on the stone bench. "And you think 'them' referred to my parents?" "I think there's a reason my father has kept you close. I think he feels responsible for what happened to your family. The question is why." That night I couldn't sleep. I reviewed the photos I'd taken from the safe, searching for clues. In one corner of a document, I noticed a name I recognized: Sun Holdings, a major competitor to Zhao Enterprises that had gone bankrupt around the time of my parents' death. Pieces started falling into place. What if my parents had information about Zhao's business dealings with Sun? What if they were paid to keep quiet about something unethical or illegal? And what if they eventually threatened to speak out? I needed to know for certain. But confronting Mr. Zhao directly felt dangerous now. The answer came from an unexpected source. The next morning, a strange man visited the estate, elderly, expensive, suit, with hard eyes that seemed to recognize me. Mr. Zhao received him in his study with strict instructions not to be disturbed, but I was invisible, as always. I positioned myself to overhear. "She's getting too close, Chen," the visitor said. "First your son starts digging, now her. It was a mistake to bring her into your house." "I needed to protect her," Mr. Zhao replied. "After what we did to her. Family, it was the least I could do. What you did was put yourself at risk. If she discovers the truth about Sun Holdings, about her parents' role as witnesses, she won't. And if she does, I'll handle it." "Like you handled the original problem?" The visitor's voice turned icy. "Your sentimentality has always been your weakness. That girl's face should remind you of the cost of loose ends." I must have made a sound. A gasp, perhaps, because both men suddenly went silent. I hurried away, my heart hammering. The cost of loose ends. My scarred face. The fire hadn't been an accident. It had been a warning, or an attempt to eliminate my parents entirely. They had seen something, known something about Mr. Zhao's business dealings, and they had paid the ultimate price. And now I knew too much, as well. That evening I received an unexpected message from Kai. "Don't trust anyone. Meeting tomorrow. I have proof." But Kai never made that meeting. In the early hours of the morning, security found him unconscious in his car at the estate gates, overdosed on heroin. As paramedics rushed him to the hospital, I caught Mr. Zhao, watching me from the window of his study, his expression unreadable. Was it a genuine overdose from Kai's self-destructive habits? Or had someone ensured he couldn't share what he knew with me? Mr. Zhao summoned me to his study that afternoon. I went, fear and anger warring within me. He sat behind his desk, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "My son," he said, voice rough with emotion, "may not survive the night." "I'm very sorry, sir," I said carefully. "Are you?" His gaze pierced me. "I wonder, Ms. Wei, what exactly my son has been telling you." "Only fragments, sir. He's been unwell." Mr. Zhao nodded slowly. "Fragments can be dangerous, especially when they're assembled incorrectly." He opened a drawer and removed a familiar lacquered box, the one from the safe. "I believe it's time we discussed why you're really here." He placed the box between us like a challenge. "Your parents were good people, Lin. They didn't deserve what happened to them." My hands clenched at my sides. "And what exactly did happen? To them, sir? They witnessed something they shouldn't have. A business arrangement that wasn't entirely legal. They were paid for their silence." His eyes never left mine. "But someone feared they might eventually talk." "You," I whispered. He shook his head. "No, I tried to protect them. To protect you. The fire. It wasn't meant to go that far." "Who, then?" "The man who visited yesterday. My former partner. When your parents threatened to expose our dealings with Sun Holdings, he took matters into his own hands." Pain crossed his features. I didn't know his plans until it was too late. I struggled to breathe. "So you hired me out of guilt?" "At first, yes, but also to keep you safe. My partner never knew there was a survivor from that fire. If he discovered who you were..." The pieces aligned with sickening clarity. I wasn't just an employee. I was evidence. A living, breathing reminder of a crime that could destroy the Zhao Empire and send its founder to prison. "And your wife?" I managed to ask. Did she kill herself because of what happened to my family? Something broke in his expression. Yimin had a conscience. She couldn't live with the knowledge of what our success had cost, but before she died, she made me promise to watch over you, to make amends somehow. I stood up, needing distance. So everything, this job, your kindness, the respect, it was all just a way to ease your guilt, to keep me close where you could watch me. It started that way, he admitted. But Lin, you've become important to this household. To me. In that moment, I saw the full twisted picture. My scarred face was the physical manifestation of the Zhao family's moral corruption. Kai's self-destruction was his response to his mother's suicide and his father's crimes. And I had been manipulated from the beginning, a chess piece in a game I didn't even know I was playing. What happens now? I asked, surprised by the steadiness of my voice. Mr. Zhao stood, coming around the desk. That depends on you. My former partner believes you should meet the same fate as your parents. I've been protecting you from him, but after yesterday he's growing insistent. Fear shot through me. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, he corrected gently. You have a choice to make, Lin. One I hope you'll consider carefully. At that moment, his phone rang. The hospital. Kai was awake, asking for me. Mr. Zhao's. Face darkened with something like jealousy. Go to him if you wish, he said. But remember, the truth you're both so eager to uncover has already destroyed 2 families. Are you prepared for what it might do to what remains of ours? I left without answering, my mind spinning with revelations and choices. The man I'd come to respect was complicit in my parents' deaths. The scarred face I'd cursed for years was the result not of random tragedy, but calculated violence. And now I had to decide, justice or mercy, truth or self-preservation. As I drove to the hospital to see Kai, I realized the power had shifted. For the first time since the fire claimed my old life, I controlled my own fate, and perhaps the fates of the Zhao men as well, but I had no idea then how dramatic that choice would be, or how it would forever alter all our lives. The hospital corridor stretched before me like a path into the unknown. Somewhere ahead lay Kai, alive, asking for me. Behind me was the shattered illusion of my life at the Zhao mansion, and in my bag, the evidence I'd gathered. Photographs. From the safe, recordings of conversations, the newspaper clippings about the fire. Enough to destroy Zhao Chen. Enough, perhaps, to find justice for my parents. I found Kai in a private room, looking frail against the white sheets. His eyes brightened. When he saw me, you came, he whispered, voice raspy. I wasn't sure you would. Your father told me everything, I said, taking the chair beside his bed. About my parents, the fire, your mother's suicide. Kai's laugh was bitter. I doubt he told you everything. My father specializes in selective truths. Then tell me your version. He struggled to sit up. The documents I found suggest my father's company was stealing technology from Sun Holdings. Your parents worked at Sun's manufacturing plant. They witnessed the theft firsthand. This aligned with what Mr. Zhao had told me, but something still felt missing. At first they were paid for their silence, Kai continued. But then my mother discovered what was happening. She wanted to come clean, return what was stolen. Your parents agreed to testify. And so they were silenced permanently, I finished. Not by my father directly. He doesn't get his hands dirty. But he knew. He allowed it to happen. Kai's eyes filled with tears. When my mother found out the fire had been deliberate, that a child, you, had been disfigured, she couldn't live with herself. I felt numb. Why are you telling me this? Why help me against your own father? His hand reached for mine, surprisingly warm. Because he needs to face what he's done, all of it. To your family, to my mother, to me. His voice cracked. My overdose wasn't entirely accidental, Lin. After I sent you that message about having proof, someone tampered with my drugs. Someone wanted to silence me too. A chill ran through me. Your father would never harm you. No? He's protected his empire at all costs for decades. What's one more sacrifice? He squeezed my hand. We can end this. Together. I have access to offshore accounts showing payments to the men who set the fire. You have your evidence from the safe. It's enough. I studied his face, searching for deception. Found only pain and resolve. What exactly are you proposing? Justice, he said simply. For all of us. I left the hospital with Kai's plan taking shape in my mind, conflicted about the path ahead. The Zhao mansion felt different when I returned, oppressive, full of shadows and secrets. Staff members noticed my distraction, but knew better than to comment. That evening, Mr. Zhao invited me to dine with him, an unprecedented honour. I accepted, mentally reviewing what I would say, what I would reveal. We ate in silence initially, the weight of unspoken truths between us. Finally he spoke. How is my son? Recovering, angry, determined to bring you down. Mr. Zhao didn't look surprised. And you? What are your intentions, Lin? I placed my chopsticks down carefully. I'm still deciding. Then allow me to help you decide. He reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope, sliding it across the table. Open it. Inside was a deed to a luxury apartment in Shanghai's most exclusive district. My name was on the title. It's yours, he said, along with a trust fund sufficient to ensure you never need to work again. All I ask is your silence, and that you leave this house tonight, before things become complicated. You're bribing me. I'm offering you freedom, a new life. His eyes held mine. More than your parents were offered. The deed trembled in my hands. Such wealth, such security, everything I'd ever dreamed of before the Zhao household, before I knew the truth. And if I refuse, his expression hardened. Then I cannot guarantee your safety. My former partner believes you know too much. I've protected you until now, but if you align yourself with my son's vendetta... The threat hung in the air between us. I see. I carefully returned the deed to the envelope. May I have until morning to consider your offer? He nodded once. Choose wisely, Lin. Justice won't restore your face or bring back your parents. But this... He tapped the envelope. This can give you the future they would have wanted for you. I returned to my quarters and spent the night in turmoil, weighing my options. The deed to the luxury apartment felt like both salvation and damnation. By morning, I had made my decision. When I entered Mr. Zhao's study at dawn, he was already waiting, impeccably dressed as always. Have you decided? He asked. Yes, I said, placing the envelope on his desk. I'm declining your offer. His expression hardened. That's disappointing. But I'm not aligning with Kai either, I continued. This vendetta between you two has consumed enough lives already. He studied me, confusion evident. What exactly are you proposing? The truth, I said simply. A full confession from you about what happened to my parents. Not to the police, but to me. Every detail. In exchange, I'll keep your secrets and help repair your relationship with your son. Mr. Zhao's laugh was hollow. You think it's that simple, that Kai would forgive me after all this time? No, I admitted, but it's a beginning, and it's the only offer you'll get from me. Hours later, I sat with father and son in the hospital room, tension crackling between them. I had convinced Mr. Zhao to come, to take the first step. Tell him, I urged gently, all of it. And so the full story emerged. How Mr. Zhao had indeed arranged for my parents to be silenced, but had explicitly ordered no violence. How his partner had gone rogue, hiring men who set the fire while my family slept. How Mrs. Zhao had discovered the truth and confronted her husband, threatening to go to the authorities. How he had begged her to reconsider, thinking of their son. She couldn't live with what we'd done, Mr. Zhao said, voice breaking. Not just to Lin's parents, but to Lin herself. A child disfigured forever because of our greed. Kai's face was a storm of emotions. You let me believe she abandoned us, that she chose death over staying with me. I was trying to protect you, his father whispered. By lying, by letting me hate her memory. Kai's voice rose, then cracked. I needed the truth. I always needed the truth. In that moment, something shifted. Not forgiveness, the wounds were too deep for that, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. And, now? Kai asked me, eyes questioning. Will you go to the authorities? I looked between father and son, these broken men whose lives had become entangled with mine through tragedy. No, I said finally. Justice won't restore what was lost, but perhaps the truth can help us all move forward. 1 month later, the Zhao mansion had transformed. Mr. Zhao stepped down as CEO of his company, citing health concerns. In reality, he was making amends, starting with a massive anonymous donation to burn treatment research and a foundation for fire victims in my village. Kai entered rehabilitation, truly committed this time to healing his physical and emotional wounds. The dangerous former partner was quietly but firmly removed from all Zhao business interests, his threats neutralized by evidence Mr. Zhao had prudently gathered over the years. And I remained as household manager, but with a difference. I was no longer invisible, no longer just the scarred woman everyone pretended not to see. Mr. Zhao introduced me at functions not as staff, but as family friend, his eyes holding a new respect. The staff who had once whispered behind my back now reported to me with deference. The world that had rejected me for my appearance now welcomed me for my connection to the Zhao family. Yet something still felt unresolved. There's one more thing I need to know, I told Mr. Zhao one evening, as we reviewed household accounts. Why did you really hire me? Not the guilt, not the promise to your wife. The real reason. He set down his papers, studying me with that penetrating gaze. Are you certain you want to know? Yes. He opened his desk drawer and removed a photograph I hadn't seen before. A young woman, beautiful, laughing at the camera. Your mother, he said, handing it to me. Lin Wei. I stared at her familiar face, so like mine had once been. I don't understand. We were more than business associates, your mother and I. His voice softened with memory. Before I met Yimin, before your father entered the picture, Lin and I were in love. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. You and my mother. We were young, ambitious. She was from my village, the most brilliant mind I'd ever known. We built the first version of Zhao Enterprises together. His eyes held mine. When my family arranged my marriage to Yimin for her connections, Lin was heartbroken. She left, married your father, a good man who loved her deeply. And you never told me this because Yimin knew. She accepted that I had loved another before her, but made me promise never to contact Lin again. I kept that promise, until I discovered Lin had taken a job at Sun Holdings. His expression darkened. I arranged for your parents to witness the technology theft deliberately. It was a way to bring Lin back into my life, under the guise of business. I felt sick. You used my parents. Yes, he admitted, but I never intended for them to be harmed. When my partner discovered my personal connection to Lin, he assumed I was compromised, that I might choose her over the company's interests. So he acted independently. And when my mother died in that fire, I lost her a second time. His voice cracked with genuine grief. When I discovered you had survived, that you carried her face, at least before the scarring, I knew I had to protect you, not just for Lin's memory, but because... He hesitated. Because what? I pressed. Because there was a possibility you were my daughter. The world seemed to stop. What? Lin and I met once, secretly, shortly after her marriage. A moment of weakness. He looked down at his hands. The timing of your birth, it raised questions for me. questions I never dared ask her directly. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything I thought I knew about myself, my identity, had been built on yet another lie. Have you known all this time? That I might be… No. I suspected, but wasn't certain until recently. He removed another document from his drawer, a DNA test. I had it done when you first came to work here. A strand of your hair was all that was needed. With trembling hands, I took the paper. The scientific language was complex, but the conclusion was unmistakable. 99 to 98% probability of paternity. Mr. Zhao, my father, watched me carefully. I understand if you hate me now, if you wish to leave and never return. I sat in stunned silence, reprocessing every moment since I'd entered this house. The way he'd looked at me without flinching at my scars, was it because he saw Li Fen in me? The way he'd protected me, valued me, respected me, was it paternal instinct all along? Did Kai know? I finally asked. He suspected something. Your mother's photograph in my safe. He must have seen the resemblance. The implications dawned on me. So when he pursued the truth about my parents, he was looking for answers about his father's past, about whether you might be his half-sister, I finished. The silence stretched between us, heavy with decades of secrets, lies, and unspoken truths. I don't expect your forgiveness, Mr. Zhao said quietly. But I hope you can understand that everything I've done, the good and the terrible, was driven by love. For Li Fen, for Yi Min, for Kai, and yes, for you, even before I was certain. I stood, needing space. I need time to process this. Of course, take all the time you need. At the door, I paused. Does Kai know the DNA results? No, I thought you should decide who learns the truth. Another choice, another burden of knowledge. 2 days later, I sat by Kai's bedside in the rehabilitation centre, the DNA results in my bag. He looked healthier already, eyes clearer, face regaining its colour. You seem different, he observed. Has something happened? I considered the document in my bag, the final truth that would forever alter our relationship. If I revealed it, Kai would have a sister but would have to share his father, his inheritance, his identity. If I kept it hidden, we would remain what we had become, unlikely friends bound by shared tragedy. Lin? He prompted. What is it? I made my decision, reached into my bag and removed, not the DNA test, but the deed to the luxury apartment. Your father offered me this to keep silent, I explained. I refused it then, but now I'm considering accepting it, starting fresh. Kai studied my face. You're leaving? After everything? Not leaving exactly, just establishing boundaries, being in that house with all its memories and ghosts. I shook my head. I need space to discover who I am beyond my scars, beyond my past. And what about us? Our friendship? There was something vulnerable in his question. I smiled. That's one thing I'm certain about. Whatever happens next, you and I are connected now. Not by tragedy or revenge, but by choice. The relief in his eyes told me my decision was right. There would be time for the full truth later, perhaps. But, for now, healing took precedence over revelation. 3 months later, I stood in my new apartment, gazing out at Shanghai's glittering skyline. Mr. Zhao, I still couldn't think of him as father, had honoured my wishes, providing the deed and trust fund without conditions. I had accepted them not as payment for silence, but as the inheritance that had always been rightfully mine. I retained my position as household manager, but worked remotely, visiting the estate only for major functions. Kai had completed rehabilitation and was slowly assuming control of the company, implementing ethical reforms that made his mother's memory proud. As for Mr. Zhao, he was changing too. The ruthless billionaire was giving way to a man attempting redemption, funding medical research for burn victims, establishing scholarships for orphans, seeking to balance the cosmic scales he had tilted for so long. The three of us formed a strange, fractured family, bound by blood in ways only we fully understood, separated by choices made decades before I was born. Not perfect, not healed, but moving forward. Together, yet independent. My mother's photograph sat on my mantelpiece, the happy, unscarred woman whose beauty I had once shared. Beside it stood a mirror reflecting my scarred face, no longer a reminder of tragedy, but a symbol of survival. Of strength. In the end, the invisible maid had become visible. The ugly, rejected woman had found power not in beauty, but in truth. And the Chinese magnate who had hired me, my biological father, had discovered that his greatest legacy was not his wealth or business empire, but the daughter he had nearly destroyed and then helped to rebuild. Some wounds never fully heal. Some truths change us forever, but in embracing both the scars and the truths, I had finally found something that had eluded me since the fire. Peace, and for now, that was enough.